Hey everybody, I'm Justin. I am founder of Recess, one of the main directors, also a current team member, and I am here with Erin, who's asked me to be here for a little interview about the ongoing conflict with Recess.
Yeah, and I'm Erin, and I'm a community member dancer in the North Bay area. And I'm just working with Recess and have been for the last couple months, helping them to grow in response to this conflict and to bring some of the questions and concerns from the community into conversation with Justin and Recess. I know for me, coming in and sort of seeing both sides of what's happening, both the public dialogue and conversation happening online and also at the camp out, and also having been part of the complexities of emotions and perspectives and conversations and theories happening in the team behind the scenes. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to tell the community a little bit of what this has been like for you all as a team, and if you're willing, if there's anything to say there.
As a team, I guess I can speak as a team. A year ago we were 9, and I think for everyone involved, it's been pretty devastating, right? Not seeing the community really respond in ways that are listening, rather there's the following of rumors, untrue rumors, instead of a listening of what's happening. There's jumping to assumptions rather than that of curiosity. There's been a real fixation on rigid ideology. Our rigid ideas, those ideologies break our relationships, both as a community and interpersonally. It's there's been, I'm in a space where I had a conflict with friends and I'm being called an abuser, and we're whoa. They didn't use those words. I don't think us as a community should be, does a disservice to the real abuse that is happening in our community, and there's a lot of it. It's the community that's using abuse narratives to move through this instead of narratives of conflict mediation and conflict.
Right.
And they're just very different things, and because there's a gender split and there's a call of these things, we've been taking it very seriously, but in terms of gender issues, but it's also just this is an interpersonal conflict between people, and but that's what it is about, and that's what I feel accountable to, right? And I know Eli particularly feels the same, but there's a call of the community to be accountable to them, which feels just more complicated. But yeah, it's been really difficult. It's my life has been upheld, completely thrown about. Spent. I don't even want to go into the details of how it's wrecked me. I just I feel it's too embarrassing to even try and hold in the public sphere of how I've been destroyed emotionally and physically. But I think that I've lost some really close friends. I don't know if I've lost them for good, hopefully not, but currently not in contact with Leah and Dig right now. We were really close, and then still trying to heal and grow and siphon out the bad, so I can really look at the things that are real use and value here for me and for Recess and community.
Can you give me just a synopsis of what those values are that you have been holding at the center as you move forward in response to the conflict and what happened?
Yeah, not just go down a list of anti-patriarchy, anti-capitalist, all of the long list of liberation politics and anti-oppression work that myself and Recess do try and work for in everything that we do, including Recess. But essentially it boils down to how we are how can we be better together and not let our social training hold us apart from being in a good relationship.
And when you say we, do you mean we, the Recess team, we, the Recess community? What is your we that you're looking at as you're doing this work?
I mean, for me, it's like this entire conflict is an interpersonal one, where like close friends of mine, like Leah and Dig, two like very close friends of mine, and like the current non or broken relationships, and like looking at those, being like how those relationships can be helped or healed or worked towards improving. But because this has been made a community conflict, for like the call of people not to support recess publicly, it does involve the community as well, which is much more difficult because that involves thousands of people who have their own relationship with recess, or myself, or other team members, and their own experience. And that one I do talk about and referring to that, but the tools in which to move through that are a little bit different. And I think like your blog and the work that you've been doing and that we've been doing organizationally do involve like our being in good relationship with the community.
Yeah.
But it's hard because that's not a person we're sitting down with.
Yeah.
You know, like you do in conflict mediation when there's conflict between people.
Totally.
So.
In light of the current conflict that happened and the critiques that are happening, one of the concerns that I feel like has been raised is that it's hard to be a femme or non-binary person working on the recess team. Can you address that? Talk about it a little, respond to that concern?
Totally. I mean, first of all, I'm not femme, nor I'm a cis man, so I don't like know actually how it is to be a. I don't know how that is, but I do know how it's like recess is hard to work with. Period, for everyone. Like Kyle, Patch, and Jared left earlier this year because they were like, you know, they all had jobs that asked a lot of them, and they just didn't have the time or energy to put into recess. And recess is fucking hard. Recess is hard on me. It's like the hardest thing I do in my life by far. Right? Same thing with Eli. Everyone who's like I know who's a part of recess, it's like pretty much one of, if not the most difficult thing that they do in their lives, and they do it because they care about it, and in like important ways that they like can't not do it and not put themselves into it. So like, I can't actually speak personally about how it's more difficult for being femme or non-binary, but you know, I also know that the world is more like not many things are easier for those genders for men than they are for men, and so I like imagine it's only more difficult. But you know,
I mean, one question would be like, what responsibility do you have to look at it as a gendered issue, and are you willing to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like completely willing, and actually have been looking at it as a gendered issue, like as all things are gendered issues. Like we can't pretend that things aren't. And so of course it is. I mean, it's really hard because those who left are like not talking with us right now, so we don't have access to that currently. But you know, we're doing a lot of things that are making it easier for humans, right, for ourselves. And I'm, you know, in the hopes that it works for everybody, like a whole diversity of genders.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
What are the things that you're doing as a team to make it easier to be a part of the recess team for all humans?
Yeah, I mean, in the short term, we like canceled the majority of our events this year. I know people are upset that we're having events at all, but we've canceled 2/3 of them. And just like that workload is way less. The events also are like smaller and more intimate, and as like myself, Eli, and David have all like, you know, taken commitments to step back to take care of ourselves. It's also like the events are like just as incredible. Like the Spanish one of just a few weeks ago, and was just like felt so easy and easeful. And you know, there's been, I mean, each one of these is complicated. Like the fact that I want to work myself really hard at recess because I care about it so much, and I feel like it's my art and community weaving. Like people tell me I need to do that less, and they like, even though like for years we've been like, just need to not work so hard. I'm like, don't tell me what to do with my body, right? And then they say like, well, it makes us feel like we have to work hard. I'm like, y'all should look at that and tell me what I can do to make it so you aren't silently influenced in my work ethic. But that's like not necessarily accountable. I'm not accountable for that. Okay, we're in a break. I feel like I just need to take you on a tour of this absurd place that we are. It's definitely a pretty abandoned, graffiti-filled. Yeah, we got Jesus and Mary up here in the Alps.
The ways why haven't you sat down in that conflict mediation facilitated conflict mediation process with those who left?
I've been writing like Dig and Leah, and haven't had a response to that. They're interested.
What do you mean you haven't had a response that they're interested?
Leah hasn't responded to any of my emails. I think I've sent like
Since when?
since the 8 months ago when this started.
Mhm.
You know, probably only like every 4 weeks send one. And then Dig did respond and was said that they're just like disinterested. They appreciate that. They're just interested to let me know if things change. So I haven't responded to that. In terms of like the community ask for like what's happening, it's like happen now. You need to resolve things with them. And I'm like, whoa, this is a conflict. And like what the community can do is to like hold space for the people that are upset at each other to like be able to lean into this and feel good and strong and supported in it.
So were you ever asked to stop holding events?
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay. What was asked of you by the team members that left?
Dig, like when they came to break up and leave, right? Recess, break up with Recess. Dig asked us not to have the UK event, and in that moment we were like, yeah, we won't have it. We'll like talk later about how that looks.
And what about the community? Have you gotten any concrete requests or asks from individuals or the community?
Yeah, I mean, like, the community is this big amorphous thing that doesn't agree on anything. But like lots of individuals have like had requests. It's interesting because many of them invoke the desires of the organizers who left, which is just like hard for me to like. I don't want to take any of the words other than theirs.
There's the organizers
The
who left.
organizers who left. Yeah.
Because you're still waiting to be in direct
Yeah,
conversation with them.
totally. And I have with Kat. It's been great and super useful.
In the conversations that happened at the camp out, were there concerns or direct asks or things to like look at that came out of those conversations?
Yeah, I mean the camp out was great. Like a whole group of concerned people getting together and like talking all day about it as a group, and then all night individually around the fire or one-on-one. It was great. I mean, a lot of those concerns were that people cared so much about Recess, and Recess was such an important part of their lives that they like couldn't imagine Recess stopping. That's also like when I say community concerns, one of the biggest concerns, I would say the biggest concern, is that Recess can't stop. Which is crazy to say here because that's not what we're talking about. But like the actual reality, like as I combine every other concern that I've seen or heard or gotten a message about, and all of those combined meets the concern that like this community is too important for people to end, and Recess has been too important for them.
Speak to some of the concerns and which ones you're working to address before Northwest.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was around safety at events. It's always been a concern that we've had and discussed in the team. A change we've made is that we have a non-organizer who's a non-cis man, who's like the safety elect person. They will like be a part of any team discussions around safety. They'll also like field questions and be available for participants to listen to safety concerns. And while they are part of the team discussion, they will be the ultimate say on if something is safe or not and what changes need to be made, and that like us as a team have decided that while they are part of the discussion, they make the ultimate call, not us. A second concern is that about me working myself too hard. You know, it's not my end goal that I have to do with my body what people want me to do, but like, you know, I'm taking a step back currently in terms of how hard I'm working on site, which is nice because it meets my own personal needs right now around recess. Another concern that,
And also, you've scaled back your events for the year, correct?
yeah, definitely, which takes a huge workload off as well. Concerns around finances and what Reset does with its money. We release publicly our finances and how much we get paid, which is everyone gets paid the same. I get paid the exact same hourly as everyone else. I don't make any money, and the only difference as the founder is I was financially liable for losses until just recently, which, you know, in the last like year, less than a year, we've like incorporated an LLC to where that's shared now among the members, like member owners. You know, there are other concerns also about patriarchal patterns within the organizing team. I've of course talked about that with lots of people, and you know, really just waiting to sit down and talk with that about with Leah and Dig, who I haven't had a chance to. But I think like to boil it down to like Justin's not a great listener, which is, you know, we all know that. There have been concerns around, you know, around what I say like the vagueness of like patriarchal relationships and habits. Yeah, we're just not gonna fix patriarchy. Just a thing. Just a thing. It's a bummer. It's not gonna happen. A lot of concerns about you know, mending the relationships of the organizers who have left, which I feel like I'm doing everything I can to be integrity to it. And you know, what are we doing in response to this? It's like we're trying to like honor relationships, self-reflect, take time for ourselves. There's like a huge community need of like recess happening. You know, like we're trying to grow through it. The hard thing is that it's a like, you know, anyone that's been online has seen like it's not a place to be vulnerable. It feels dangerous to everybody, right?
Yeah.
Right now.
Trust me.
And it's like not the place where this work is being done.
When you say this work, you mean?
Like the self-growth, the reflection, the how we could have done better.
The transformation, the reconciliation.
The reconciliation, you know, and that'll come.
Questions, can you just speak a little bit to like, what are you using as resources and support to step up to this conflict?
Yeah, you know, it's like referring back to like the teachers in my life that I have, right? And I have a whole list that I could name off. Also like referring back to the people who I feel like, you know, might be like, Justin's not the easiest person to work with, right? And like sitting down and for hours talking with them and processing about the things that could like make me like better and easier to work with. You know, a lot of this is, you know, referring back to, I mean, like attempting to reconcile with the people who left. And Kat and I have had a lot of that. It feels really good. I'm still waiting for the others to be available to me. I'd like to have that type of, you know, educational piece for my own growth for myself. Also just like, you know, months in the wilderness. Writing profusely, you know, the ways, you know, crying with my close friends, crying alone, writing, you know, all the things that we do as humans to like grow and in like vulnerable, ripped up places, you know. Also like so much like the work that we've been doing together and like the things that you brought in and added to like help like bring other lenses and like really us just be like, here's what we are, what we've done. Tell us how we can do better. I feel like you're like the auditor, the value auditor coming in and being like, this is what we are. And like even more so since you like come on and like came to Europe with us and traveled with us and came to the recess here in Europe and to Northwest and the camp out, just you actually are working with us on site and even know how we operate and you get to see it and experience it firsthand. So the you know, the things I feel accountable to are like my relationship with like Leah, Dig, and Kat. And just because I don't feel close to, like, I know Kim's not on that list because I don't feel accountable to that relationship because we didn't really have one. But I do feel very much accountable to like the fact that like friends of mine are pissed at me. Right? Like I do feel really accountable to like, you know, what was in our relationship that didn't feel good. You know, like, you know, it's like the thing that I try not to do in these is like let the things that I assume or imagine become their words.
Yeah.
So it's hard when I haven't actually been able to talk with them. But you know, like there's like I know that like my personality is like one that's like hard to disagree with, right? I'm just like waiting to like lean into that relationship, which I hope will happen one day. I said, you know, in terms of the community accountability is like as there are too many voices to siphon it, but that I do know that like myself and like Eli and David, like still the remaining organizers, still really care about these issues. Like we've always been in process about how we can do better around the things that we care about, and this is just like a like okay, it's like so much more, and like reaching out for help, doing a lot of like internal work, you know, and also it's like never would myself or any of us on the team, we have lots of discussions about this, but ever say that Recess is supposed to be easy. Like it's a project that is like meant to like challenge ourselves in all of the ways, like interpersonally and like as a community within our value systems, and like having Recess be a thing that like is transformative and potent for us means that we're like, you know, like it's not an easy thing. And so, and of course that's always with the belief that like at the base we're resilient enough in each other that like hardship turns into growth, right, and self-transformation, and like more like even building more resilient relationships because we have this like real strong foundational growth of trust. And you know what happened, like what we're really looking at, like when like Eli, Dave, and I are like looking and wrestling over how friends of ours are upset at us, upset enough to not even want to talk to us after 8 months. And what we're really looking at is, you're like, God, how did we not have like the trust and rapport on the team that we thought that we had, right? To where a thing where a rumor that was heard and believed is untrue, or that was believed to be true but was untrue, was enough to like break a team and, you know, and story the team as being like fucked up.
Do the people who left the team know that the rumor was untrue?
Yeah, they definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I know.
And so, okay.
But that was a month after they heard it. So, like this split in the team, while a lot of people have been making it about gender, it really is like so much about personality. Like there already was a split on the team, and it was about like what we wanted things to be, right? And the split was like David, Eli, and I were like Recess is our art, right? Like Eli and I have been on Recess for so many years, and we're like Recess is always changing, it's always progressing, it's always responsive to the community and what we want it to be. And then there's people that have come on later, right? Like particularly, like you know Leah for a couple of years, Dig for 1 year, and Kim, who wasn't even an organizer but was like in a preliminary phase and have worked with us for a couple of events, who came on because they liked what Recess was doing, right? They liked what Recess was. And so then there was always this like more, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but one was like Recess is changing, always doing more, always like being different in our artistic creation, and ones are like, oh, we want to like do what Recess has been, it's doing a good thing, let's like hone that. And like there's always this like in all of our discussions. But the work of Recess now is like 10%, 5% events, and 95% this conflict. As a and the holding of it is so intense that like it makes it to where everything else scales back. And so, like, while we're doing things, it's still probably the most difficult year Recess has ever had for the work on me, by far, actually. Even though we have small events that are easy, it's because this conflict is impossible, right? And it, like, weighs impossibly.
What makes it impossible and weigh impossibly for you?
It lives in the emotional realm, and, the breakup realm, like the bad breakup of a love realm, where you're upset at each other and you're, like, not talking, as opposed to, like, we have to do a thing. We have to, like, make a website. We have to, like, order food and run a kitchen. That stuff's all very possible. The emotional stuff feels more impossible. Also, about conflict is that, like, it brings us closer. Like, conflict is the thing that we grow through. It is the thing that builds trustful, resilient relationships. Like, without it, our relationships, like, don't have depth. We don't have growth, and they don't build resilience. But in the way the community's been responding to this, and it's like the community for me is very separate than how, like, the people who left, right? The community's been responding in ways where it's just, like, not building trust. It's not building growth. It's, like, building divisions. It's building hardship. It's building distrust. Which whenever I'm, like, either mediating conflicts or in conflicts myself, like, I'm always like, what are the ways that we're building more trust? What are the ways? And even in this, I'm looking at that. But, like, the trust is, 2,000 people need build trust in different ways.
Yeah.
I have lots of feels and opinions about that I won't go into, but that's the short of it.
And
What's happening, which is just what happens with humans. I'm like, oh yeah, of course we're in conflict together, especially when we do hard things together. For me, it's like, oh, normal. It's like, look for the growth, look for the things. And in a community, in a space where we're all, like, acting in integrity of, like, care for each other and, like, listening and curiosity and, like, looking for how, like, growth happens on both sides in community. And, like, the moment that growth is, like, a finger that goes outward or, like, flame goes that way is the moment that, like, one person gets to grow and not a community growing together, right? Or two people in conflict growing together. And it's, like, just the place where identity politics and gender politics are right now in America, is that, like, we're all in different places based off of, like, where we self-identify in our identity politics and, like, what our projects are. Trying to decide what we want to do. Like, we want this community to be something that is worth investing in. It's like the juicy place in our lives where we get to grow and reinforce our values and project out how we work with them and improve on them better. And I know that David, Eli, and I have, like, this has been, like, a huge step up for us in the work that we've done. There's a lot of people like yourself, a lot of people working with us as well individually, just on the ways that we can do better, which it's funny, like, it might be a big surprise to people that don't like us, but that's, like, not a new thing.
Yeah.
We're, like, always, like, wrestling around these issues.
Yeah, that was